Great. First of all, thanks, Alex, for having me and giving the opportunity for this session. Awesome. I know we've been back and forth quite a bit, and really looking forward to present today. Just a quick note here to the participants. I'm actually traveling right now, so I'm not at best of my setup. In case you see any issue with the a voice or the video or anywhere, please do stop me, and I will try to make sure the quality and everything is good. Because right now I'm not at my place. I'm just trying to be present today. So I'm going to share my screen, Alex, right now, and just let me know if you can see everything. And one more thing. Right now, I'm only using one single screen, so I might not able to see any question and answers coming on. So, Alex, maybe just stop me or let me know, come off mute and to ask the question. Can you share my PowerPoint, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's get started. All right, so today we're going to talk about calculation groups, best practices and pitfalls. Again, this topic is in Power BI. So if you guys used calculation groups in the past, great. If not, then you will learn that what calculation groups are and where we can use that and what are the best practices. The agenda for today is, again, as I said, we're going to talk about what the calculation groups are actually, how they are helpful, what does that calculation group means, when to use calculation groups. Like, okay, this is a feature in Power BI, when we should use it. And also, we will look into some of the things you really need to be careful when you're using calculation groups, because you can run into some challenges and issues. We will look into some practical examples about all these things. This is going to be complete a workshop, a practical hand-on stuff. I just have only 3 or 4 slides, not more than that. And also, I will share this presentation with Alex, that he can share it with you guys. There are some links I have put in this presentation where you can go and learn more about calculation groups. So you will see those links in this presentation. A quick intro about myself. My name is Parv Chana. People also call me Parv Chana. Maybe it's easier. I run a consulting company here in Vancouver, Canada. Right now, I'm in India. I'm originally from India, but I'm living in Canada for the last 20 years. I'm visiting back home right now. And my company name is Paritas IT Solution. Pretty much what I'm focused on under my consulting company is all Power BI related implementations, architect, designing the solution, end-to-end solution, mainly on the Microsoft Data Platform. I've done a lot of projects across the globe and very large data set projects where data has like 500 million rows, even more than that. So when you're working with large data set, you really need to make sure the solution you're putting together is performing well in a high volume data. So that's what my main area of focus is, and that's what I do. I have a YouTube channel. The handle for that is Power BI How To. I started this YouTube channel back in 2022, 1st January 2022, and now we are in February 2023. I almost posted 150 plus videos on my YouTube channel. A lot of those videos are driven mainly from real-time projects I do. I learn things, then I think, okay, this might be a good something I should share with others so that they can take advantage of it. So a lot of videos are more on real-time example, like how you solve the business problems, if you run into how you handle the problems, and then that kind of stuff. So do check out my YouTube channel. And please connect me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and mainly active on LinkedIn, very little on Twitter, but LinkedIn is my go-to place. do connect me there, reach out. You have my email address here as well. If after the session you have any question or anything comes up, anything you want to know more, do please reach out anytime. I'm very open to assist wherever possible to share my knowledge and whatever I learn during my day-to-day work. I'm a Power BI community super user as well. If you don't know Power BI community super user, Microsoft Power BI community started a program back like 5-6 years ago, and it's called super users. Basically, the people who give a lot of answers or the solution to the people who pose the questions, they get some kind of status called super user. So I'm one of those because I'm very active on Power BI community. I've been super user since this program has started, and I'm also Microsoft Data Platform MVP. It's 4 years for being the MVP. I hope I get the renewal for the next year as well. So, but anyhow, that's a little bit what I do and what my area of focus is. And one more thing I wanted to add here is I'm using Power BI since it was made available back in 2015 when it was in preview. That's the time I'm started using Power BI, and until now, like before that, I used to use Tableau and other BI tools, and now I'm completely in Power BI and related technologies. So it's pretty hands-on what I'm doing in Power BI and very involved with it from day one. All right. So let's quickly look at that. Maybe before I go forward, again, I don't know how this will be answered. Maybe I just want to ask our attendees right now, how many of you guys have used calculation groups? Maybe in the chat, just drop yes or no, either way. Like how many of you guys have actually used calculation groups or never used it or never heard this, or anything you want to put on the comments, so that I just get in a little idea to how should I focus the presentation. So Robert said yes, Bianca said no. Anybody else? Any other? Only 2 people said. So maybe let me ask this question then. How many of you guys are using Power BI or other BI tool? Like if you're using Power BI, say yes. If not, then say no. So Bianca is using Power BI. And Robert, I guess, of course, you are using Power BI since you mentioned you're using calculation groups. Elka said using Power BI. Perfect. What are the other users who are using Power BI? If you're not using Power BI, what else you guys use for your BI reporting? What are the technologies you guys use? Austin said Tableau. Okay, perfect. What else people are using? Put it on the chat. If on the Zoom chat, that will be really easy for me to understand. If all right, I guess so. We have what I got the answer. So there is 3 people saying they use Power BI, and then Robert used calculation groups. Marcin using Tableau. Maybe is Alex, that's where people are. I know you said it is also getting casted live on YouTube, but because I don't have access to that, are there any answer coming on that, or because I'm not seeing those? So maybe I don't know. Alex?
Yes.
Is there anybody answering on? You mentioned that this is getting streamed on YouTube. Is anybody answering on YouTube as well? I'm not sure. I'm not, because I'm not seeing that channel. Just wondering.
I don't track it right now, but our active active core audience is here. So
okay, good. Okay, perfect. Awesome. All right, so let's get going then. I assume one thing I want to make sure that I assume people know Power BI, at least they work with Power BI, because this is totally completely Power BI related technology or feature, which I'm going to share today. And if you use calculation groups, awesome. If you not, then you will surely love it after this session, and you will use it. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Natalie. So what is calculation group in Power BI? So calculation group is a special kind of a table in Power BI with a single column. Actually, there are two columns. We will look into that, what those are. But the one column is hidden, other column is not hidden. So usually when the calculation groups get created in Power BI, it creates a special table in Power BI. And that table has a set of calculation items. So when you create a calculation groups, that becomes the name of the table. Let's say I call it calculation group called time intelligence. So that is the name of the table. And then there is in the table name, then you give it a column name. You can call it period, for example. So table name is a time intelligence, and the column name is a period. And number of calculation items you create in the calculation groups become a row or a record in that table. Let's say I created a calculation group called time intelligence. The column name I given it a period, and I created, let's say, three calculation items: month to date, quarter to date, and year to date. So those three will become three rows in that particular table. Now, each calculation item, when you create a calculation group, you give a DAX expression on that, because you tell what that calculation item, what kind of calculation you want to perform on that. And that is what makes a calculation, a table, a calculation group. Calculation group has some special DAX functions which are used only in calculation groups mainly. For example, those are selected measure, selected measure name, is a selected measure format string. There are a couple of DAX functions which are dedicated towards the calculation groups. And that's what is the basic structure of the calculation group is. How you create a calculation group, one of the question always comes out to be, if I wanted to create a calculation group, how I can create that. Power BI desktop, the software which you download to design your Power BI model and connect to the data source and all the stuff, it does not have an interface to create the calculation groups. You have to use a third-party tool or external tool. So some of the companies who does not allow use of the external tools, they kind of get stuck in using calculation groups because they cannot allow, if they don't allow to use the external tools, unfortunately, there is nothing can be done. Right now, there is nothing from Microsoft within Power BI desktop that helps you to create the calculation groups. The most commonly used external tool is Tabular Editor. Again, this is a free tool developed by another MVP, Microsoft Data Platform MVP. And Tabular Editor it has two versions, 2.x and 3.x. 3.x is a paid version. 2.x is a free version. You can download it. It has all the features what you can use. 3.x version, Tabular Editor 3, has some more bells and whistles around that. But for the core functionality, you can still use Tabular Editor version 2, and it is completely free to use. And that's the one way that we can create the calculation groups in our model. And that's what we are going to use today. I have both Tabular Editor and Tabular Editor 3. Tabular Editor 3 is a paid version, but I will be in this particular session. I will use Tabular Editor 2 because that's a free, and most likely that's what you guys would prefer to use. And then you guys decide if you want to buy Tabular Editor 3 or not. But Tabular Editor 2 will do the job. Let me quickly see, there's a question. No, field parameters are not calculation groups. So there's a great question. Field parameter, I actually did. There is another event which is happening Global Power BI Summit. And in that particular, I think it's happening in March, I'm doing a session on field parameters versus calculation groups. Field parameter is not a calculation group, but there are certain functions that these two both can achieve certain functionality. Whether you use field parameter or use calculation groups, you can really achieve that. But they are completely different. They can work differently. They can work together as well, depending on what you want to achieve. So I would highly recommend, if you can join that session in Global Power BI Summit. My 1 hour session is completely on field parameter versus calculation groups. But this is a great question. But they're two different things. I hope it answers your question. Perfect. All right, so let's get to Power BI and quickly look into what is calculation groups, how we created it, what happens here. I have a very simple model here. I just want to quickly run through the model because in Power BI, everything based on the model. This one is very simple model. My understanding with this session is that you guys know about the basics of Power BI and the data modeling, because that is the core of any, especially in the Power BI, the data model is the core part of it. So this particular model, what you see here is that we have a sales table in the center, and then this is a snowflake schema. Again, just on the schema modeling side of things, preference is always to create a star schema where all the dimensions are connected directly to fact table. But in this particular model, because this is, I think, a sample data I have, this is a snowflake because product is directly connected to sales, and product category is not connected to the sales directly. It is connected to the product. So this makes it a snowflake schema. But for the purpose of demo, I think in the real world, it's supposed to be a star schema. The item what I wanted to point out here is why I'm showing this model. It's a very simple model. If we look at the sales and calendar table, we have the three relationship on the three different dates. We have a relationship order date and date, and then we have a relationship due date and date, and we have a relationship ship date and date. And as we all know, when you're creating a relationship between two tables in Power BI, only one relation can be active. Other two relations are all other relation. Only one relation can be active. The rest of the relations will be always inactive. In this particular case, the relationship between the order date and date is active because that is solid line, and the dotted lines show that these are the inactive relationships. And there are special DAX function use relationship to activate the inactive relationship in your measure. So you use that. I wanted to show this because we will be using this in the calculation group. So right now, our active relationship is with order date. Just keep that in mind. So any questions so far? Okay, there's no question. I will be checking in between if there is any question. Now, I have here is a very simple, what you call a table visual here. I have a country from my country, my geography table, and I have three measures here: order count, sales, and quantity. Those measures are very simple measures. I'm just going to quickly show you guys what those are. It's called order count. So that is just the distinct count of the sales order number in my sales order table. And then I have a sales measure, which is just sum of the total sales amount, and then the quantity is just a sum of total quantity. So it's very simple measure, and we are showing it in the visual here. So let's say what could be the first use case of the calculation group. Let's say I want to give an opportunity to my user. Right now, I created a report, and I am showing these three measures in this particular table. Now, I want to give the opportunity to my user or end user that he can select which measures he wanted to or she wanted to see on this particular table. Before the field parameter, calculation group was the only way to do that. The functionality, what I'm going to show you right now, that is one of the functionality can be easily achieved with the field parameters. But because right now our topic is calculation groups, so I'm going to show you guys how we can do this with the calculation groups and how we create the calculation groups. I have, as I said, to create a calculation group, you need to use an external tool. In this case, we will be using Tabular Editor. So I have already installed external tool, Tabular Editor. So once you install a Tabular Editor on your machine, I have the version 2 and this is the version 3. I will be using version 2. Once you install Tabular Editor, of course, you will see that under your external tools here. And once you click that, it will directly take you to connect to the model, and Tabular Editor software will open. If we look at it will show all the tables and everything. One thing I wanted to point out here, maybe let me actually show that later on. Let's say I wanted to create a calculation group. As I said, that to create a calculation group, the only way is that you need external tool. In this case, we're using Tabular Editor. There's no interface or a user experience within Power BI desktop. So here in the tables, I right click and then I have the option to create a calculation group. Whatever I want to name it, let's say I create a calculation group and I call it a measure selection. So the first thing is when I give, sorry, this is already exist. So that's already there. Maybe I will just call it measure selection version 2. So I created a calculation group called measure selection version 2. So this will become a table in my model. And under this, as you can see, there is a name. This becomes the default column name under that particular table or calculation group. So if I wanted to rename, I can rename this as well. So as I said, there is always one column. And if I rename it, click on the name here. And then I can rename, let's call it, let's name it selective measure. So what I have here is now I have a measure selection B2, a table name. Under that, there is a column called selective measure. And now here I can create my calculation item. So every calculation item when I create, it becomes a row in that table. So if I right click and go new calculation item, let's say my first is some reason it's not creating. Interesting. Let me discard that. Never seen that before. Tabular Editor. Tables, create new calculation group. Let's call it measure selection version 3 now. And under this, let's say the name is selective measure. And new calculation item. Okay, here you go. So now I can create the new calculation item. That's it. My first calculation item, I want to give an option called number of orders. And I'm going to create 3 calculation items here. And the second one is sales. And the third one is quantity. So what I did is I created a calculation group called measure selection version 3 with the column under it is selective measure and it has a 3 calculation item. This becomes a record in that particular table. Now, you cannot leave this blank. When you create a calculation item, you need to create a tax expression here. What this calculation, when this calculation item gets used, what it should return. You can write any complex logic here, whatever you want it to write. But ours is pretty simple. What we want is when users select number of orders, I wanted to return the order count measure, which I already have. Let's make sure that the name of the measure is correct. So it's called order count. I can order count. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, when number of orders is used anywhere, it should return this measure, order count. When there's a quantity is being used, then I want to return the measure called quantity. That's quantity. And when it is a sales measure, sorry, when I'm in the sales one, I wanted to return the sales measure. Now, once this is done, so this is what I wanted to achieve with this. So basically what I want is I want to give the user an option to select what they wanted to see in the metrics visual. And based on that, these calculation items, they can actually select what they want to see. Let's see this in the action. After you create a calculation group, we need to write this back into our model. So you save it. So as if there is any error, it will show up in here. Otherwise, now our model has this new table. So let's go back to Power BI here. If I expand my fields here, what you will see here, Meyer selection version 3. I am not seeing that. Let's refresh it. I think I have to close and restart my Power BI desktop with this particular. Here you go. Usually it shows up immediately. So if you look there now, there's another table. And one thing you really wanted to, you should know that there is no way to identify whether this is a calculation group table or this is a regular table which you connected to some of your data sources. It could be a SQL or other. There's no special icon for calculation group. There is no way to know that. And this is one of the limitation. This looks like a normal table, but actually this is a calculation group. And if I go to the table data view, and if I go to Meyer selection version 3, as you can see, there is a, we have a table and then we have a column called select a Meyer, and it has 3 options, which we created as a calculation item. And then it has another hidden column called ordinal. By default, the way you create the calculation items, that's in that order, it shows anywhere in the visual. But if you really wanted to change the order of these calculation items, you can do it in Tabular Editor, and the ordinal will change. Like, let's say if you want the sales to be the first, then it will be 1 and the quantity second and the third. And based on the ordinal, this will get sorted out. But I'm just keeping it as it is. So how this helps us to what we wanted to achieve. So first of all, let's bring selective Meyer here on our pane here, and then use it as in a slicer. So now we have a 3 selection here: number of orders, quantity, and sales. In this particular matrix visual, what we are going to do here is we are going to, instead of right now, what we're doing is we have country on the rows, and then we have 3 different Meyers on our value section. What we need to do is we are going to remove these all 3. We don't need it. We just keep 1 Meyer. It could be any Meyer, does not matter. And then the new column, new table which I created, or calculation group I created, Meyer selection V3. I will select a Meyer, I bring it on the columns. Now I have all those 3 columns showing up in here. So with the correct value, so you can see the number of orders, quantity, and sales. And since we put this as in a slicer, if I only wanted to see the sales, I can click on here and I can see the sales. If I really want to see the quantity, I can see the quantity and sales, depending on what you want to do. So now with this, what happened is now your user has the option what they really wanted to see. They don't have to edit the report and remove those columns. You can give this kind of functionality. This particular functionality you can also achieve with field parameter. Field parameter allow you to dynamically select the Meyers. If this is the only your requirement in today's world, then I would prefer to use field parameters regardless of the calculation groups. But the reason why I wanted to show this is because this in the further demo, this will come very, very handy. So now we have a number, we can choose what we wanted to see. So this is one of the functionality you can achieve with the calculation group. Now, the biggest calculation group functionality you can achieve with this is, let's say, I wanted to achieve month to date, quarter to date, and year to date time intelligence, for example. And now, before calculation groups, let's say I have 3 Meyers. I wanted to see the month to date quantity for number of orders. I wanted to see the month of quantity for quantity, and month to date for the sales as well. Similarly, QTD and YTD I want. So what we would do traditionally, if we have to do it in the past, what we need to do is, so let's say we have a base Meyer. Our base Meyers are sales, quantity, and number of orders, right? So these are 3 Meyers already. And now if we need to create a QTD, month to date, Q to date, YTD, So it means we need to create one for the sales for month to date, and one for QTD for sales, and one for YTD. So what we need to do is we need to create approximately these many mayas. So we have a 3 mayas base mayas, and then we have a 3 more for each particular. Actually, let me put it this way. So these are our base mayas. So we have a 3 base mayas, and then we have a 3 for month to date and 3 for YTD. So number of mayas is basically now what we have here is, if we sum this up, so we have approximately, and then we sum this up into. So we will have 12 mayas in our model. So basically, to achieve all this, we will have 12 mayas. Now that is one thing. Now the second question comes is, okay, this month to date and quarter to date and year to date, it is based on what date? Because if you remember in our model, we have a 3 different date: order date, ship date, and due date. Now we also want to create the maybe month to date by order date, and maybe also we want a month to date by ship date. It means we need 3 more mayas for each particular date as well. So basically what would happen at that point of time, if we really have to do this, so this is first is the order date, and we have a set of, let's do this way. So we have a 12 of this based on the order date. Now we also need to create more for the base of the ship date, and we also need to create more for the base on our due date. Assuming we have only 3 dates in this particular example, there could be more than this. So let's do this due date. So basically, we have the base mayas, which is just the simple sum, and then we have month to date, quarter date based on the order date, that's similar based on the ship date, and similarly based on the due date. So if we have to do this without calculation group, so basically how many mayas we have for sales, we will have, how many are these now? So we have 10 mayas for the sales, 10 for the quantity, and 10 for the orders, and overall we will have 30 mayas to achieve the functionality what we want. So base mayas, then month to date for each date, quarter date for each date, and year to date. It means if we have another date, let's say invoice date, it means there will be a set of another 9 mayas. So they keep on growing. Each date will add 9 more mayas. Now this is already we have only sales, quantity, and orders. Let's say we have more mayas, we have a discount, we have a freight, we have some other mayas. It means this can go crazy in a few seconds, like depending on what you want to achieve. And this is where the calculation groups really shine and helps us to avoid creating tons of mayas. So how we can do that? How that calculation group helps us there? Let's go back here. So let's say now what I want to do is I want to calculate quarter to date and year to date. So I already have a calculation group. I'm not going to create that, but instead I will show you guys here. That is called time intelligence. So again, I created a calculation group called time intelligence, and it has a column named period. And I created a month to date, quarter to date, and year to date, 3 calculation items. And on those calculation items, I gave my logic. What I wanted to do is, as I said, there is a special function, tax function called selected maya, which get used. So what I'm doing here is, when I'm using month to date, I want to perform this calculation. What calculation I want to perform? I want to perform, okay, whatever the maya I'm using in a visual. If I'm using a sales maya, then it selected maya will give me that sales maya value. If I'm using a quantity maya, selected maya will give me the value of that quantity maya. If I'm using number of orders or whatever maya I'm using, the selected maya function gives you the value of the whatever the maya you are using in your visual or in your report. So what I'm telling it, okay, whatever maya has been used, apply, give me the dates month. This is again time intelligence functions. I'm pretty sure you guys know all these functions. So what I'm saying is, whatever maya is selected in the visual, just create a month to date calculation for that maya. Similarly, in the QTD, I'm saying, okay, whatever maya is selected, use dates QTD as a time intelligence function I'm using, and this is what I'm doing for YTD. Now, how this is helpful? Let's go back to Power BI quickly. So it will be easier to see if we use a month column on our visual instead of country. So that's it. Now what we're seeing is we are seeing our sales. Let's keep one only sales at this point of time for the purpose of demo. So we have a sales by month right now. And let's say I wanted a sales to be a year to date, quarter to date, and I want to see it year to date. So now what I can do is my time intelligence, again, my time intelligence calculation group, I have a period on this. So I can bring that and I can use this as a slicer if I wanted to. So if the user want, okay, I wanted to see sales and I want to see a year to date sales. So if I click on year to date, as you can see, the sale has been changed. In January, there was, if I uncheck this, if you look at that, each month, 481, 477, 497. Now, when we say YTD, it will increase over period. So now, as you can see, January, February include January and February, March include January, February, March, April use all that month, and it will go up to December 2019, and that's your year-to-date sale. And now from January 2020, it starts again. Now, if I want to see the quarter to date, I can click on that, and now I am seeing the quarter to date sales by each quarter. As you can see now, January, February, March is the first quarter. I'm seeing the March 2019. This is the total sales for the quarter, and in June, this is the sales of these 3 months. So with the simple calculation, and now I can give the user the option, okay, which money you want to see and what you wanted to see. And now one biggest thing is we can apply this on any of the measures. So if I use quantity here, and now this year to date is now applied on the quantity, I don't have to go and create all those measures again and again. So whatever the measure is being used, and this calculation group is applying that logic on that particular measure. So if I don't use any measure, let's say if I have all the 3 base measures are here, I can use QTD month to date for all those 3 measures. So this is working great right now. As you can see, it's already we have only base measures, which is sum of sales, sum of quantity, and distinct count of number of orders, and just 3 base measures. And we have created 2 calculation groups, and already there is a lot of flexibility has been built. We given the opportunity to the user what they want to see in the visual, what value they want to see. We can also add another row here. We can call it, we don't want to perform any calculation. You can either add another option, or you can give the option to uncheck it, and then user can. Then this is just the raw calculation, raw number per month. Let me stop here and just quickly see if there are any questions or anything. There is anybody have any question or anything? All right, that's good. Please feel free to stop me if you have any questions. I would really appreciate that, because we'll make sure that you guys are having the opportunity to ask the question and understanding, and you are actually learning it. So that's the goal here. All right, so let's continue now. Now let's look at this. Is what we wanted to see is the question is we are looking at this by month right now. The question is what date it is using. What December 2018 means in this particular case. If we go back to our model, and as I said, we used our month column from the calendar table, and we have 3 relationships. And since we have 3 different relationships, it is showing based on the active relationship. And so right now it is using order date. So what we are seeing, the number of orders in December 2018 is based on the order date. Similarly, we are seeing the sales of $44,000 based on the order date, not on the ship date and due date. If we need to see these numbers by order date, by ship date, and by due date, what we need to do is, again, as I mentioned, if we look at the Excel sheet which we just we put together, right now we achieved this functionality. We are able to achieve this functionality without creating all these measures. So what we did is we have the base measures, and then we created a calculation group, and then we basically all these 12 functions or measures, we don't need those anymore, because we can calculate all this using the calculation group. Now the question is, again, there is a ship date and also the due date. How we should handle that? So let's go back and try to make it work with the calculation group. So to use a different date or different relationship, what we need to do is we need to use the function called use relationship. Use the relationship function make your inactive relationship to the active in that particular measure. So what we can do here is, again, go back. I already have a calculation group for that. I just want to show you guys here. So let's say there's a calculation group I call selected date. And in the selected date, calculation group name is selected date, and also the column name is selected date. And I created 3 calculation items in this again. One is due date, order date, and ship date. You can name it whatever you want. So what I'm doing is, in the order date, what I'm saying is give me the selected measure. And the reason why I'm doing that, because order date is the default active relationship. So what I'm saying is, if I'm using the sales measure, and if I'm using any column from the calendar table, it is using the active relationship, which is based on the order date. So I don't need to perform any calculation here. Just whatever the sales measure or the quantity measure is returning the value, just give me that. So I have nothing to do in this particular case. But when I'm using a due date, I need to perform this action. What I wanted to do again, as I said, the use relationship is the function. So calculate, I want this tax expression to be get executed when I select the due date. So what I'm saying is, whatever the measure is being selected, in this, if I have this particular calculation item getting used anywhere, use the relationship calendar date and sales due date. It means in that particular instance, when I'm using this due date, make my due date as an active relationship with the calendar table. And similarly, in the ship date, I'm doing user relationship calendar date with the ship date. So now, if in these calculation items, what I did is I switched my relationship from my order date to the selected date, like a ship date or the selected calculation item, ship date or due date. Now, how does this play a role? Let's go back to Power BI, and we call this selected date. That's a calculation group here, and that's a calculation item. So if I go here and put this as a slicer here, I have 3 options now. And right now, due date, order date, and ship date. So if you see the number here, right now we are using, by default, it is using the order date, and the numbers are for December 2018, 14 orders, 14 quantity, and 44,507 is this order quantity or the sales quantity. If I use the ship date, now as you can see, the December line has disappeared because there is no order to be shipped in December. There is no December 2018 ship date. And everything is now, what we're seeing is based on the ship date. So with the selection of this, if I want to see it by the due date, as you can see, the numbers are changing. So now if you can see right now with 3 calculation groups, what we have done is we gave the user an opportunity. Okay, what measure you want to see, select that. How you want to see it, you want to see the month to date or quarter date or year to date, we able to do that. And also we gave him the opportunity, okay, which date you want to see. You want to see it by order date? Okay, then you can select the order date. You want to see it by ship date? You can see it by ship date. So it becomes so powerful all of a sudden. Let's see if we create a line graph of this and plot it on a line graph quickly. What is on selective measure on the as in y-axis? And then put any measure here, order count, for example. So what's happening here right now, and maybe the bar chart is a better option here. Actually, let's do one more thing in this particular case. I want to see the order count, not a measure, but I want to see it by selected date. Now we want to show this. That's my legend. So remove this. So as you can see right now, it is giving us, convert it into the bar chart. Just sorry. Yeah, this is better. So what I am seeing here is I'm seeing my sales and comparing how much is by due date, order date, or ship date. Like you can see the numbers have changed. In December 2018, we have only, let's select smaller number of years so that the bars are a little wider. I'm going to select only 2018 to 2020. Yeah, okay. So as you can see, there's in December 2018, the pink color is 44,000 of sales is by order date, but there's nothing by due date and ship date. And you can see the comparison, how it is doing. Now I can want to switch this to quantity. I can see how the quantity changes. And if I want to see the number of orders I can select that. If I really just wanted to see sales by order date, I can do that. And I want to see ship date, I can do that. I want to see more than 2, I can do that. And if I decided, okay, I want to see the ship date, but I want to see how it lined up in a year-to-date or QTD, I can really do that as well. So with a very simple calculations and creating these groups, you can really make it so dynamic, and I can change anything, whatever I want. So we have one simple 3 base measures and all this selection, and all of a sudden we have so much flexibility, which we give it to our user and let them select and use whatever they wanted to see. And this becomes really, really powerful at that point of time. As I said initially, dynamic measures, you can really also do with the field parameters, but you cannot provide this kind of functionality where you're further putting the DAX expression, DAX logic on your measures. That can be only done with the calculation groups. And you can really do a lot of advanced things with all this stuff. So this, as you can see, it took us like 10 minutes because I already did that. I'm trying to explain that. Once you understand calculation groups and all this stuff, you can add so much flexibility in your functionality. You just name it. Like, for example, I go back to my matrix visual. So I'm seeing now the data in matrix visual by due date, by order date, by ship date. And if I really further wanted to explore this, I can have my selected date, and then I can also have my measure. Let's do, we call it a measure version 3. I put it on top of selected measure. So what I have here is, if I drill down to the next level, I can actually see my quantity by due date, by order date, and by ship date next to each other, right? If I really wanted to compare order date and ship date, I don't want to see the due date, I can do that. And if I want to see all my 3 measures, I can see all those: number of orders by order date, by ship date, quantity by order date, by ship date, sales order by ship date. And depending what I wanted to do, I can simply, now all of this becomes so, I can drill up and down if I wanted to. I can pick what measure I want to see, and I can how I want to analyze it, and what period I want to see. Let's say if I wanted to further drill down, I want to say, okay, I want number of orders and due date, and I also wanted to see it by month to date and quarter to date. I can actually add my time intelligence into the next level as well if I really wanted to. I can go crazy here. I can go to the period. I can further drill down, and now I will see my number of orders by due date, how much is the month to date, how much is the QTD, and how much is, let's say I just interested in QTD and YTD, and I can now easily see how my, as you can see in December 2019, number of orders by due date is 630 if it's based on the due date, and year to date is 2139. So I can really, with the calculation groups, it's not only allow us to create less number of measures, but it also gives us a lot more functionality. As you can see, how much we can go drill up and down and in any direction. So it becomes really, really, really powerful at this point of time. As you can see, I hope you will find this very useful and how this can make your report so flexible and user-friendly. I'm going to pause here and have a quick time check, and also wanted to go to the next level. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the feedback. Really appreciate that. How are we doing on the time here, Alex? I just want to make sure that how much time I have, more of half an hour. All right. I guess just chat. All right, let's get going. I guess that's what it is. Now, this great flexibility come with a lot of responsibility as well. So this is where it becomes, you have to be really, really careful. That's why I said best practice and the white pitfalls. So I'm going to show you guys a quick example here. Let's say I have a measure called, I'm going to uncheck everything for now. So what we have is, I'm going to remove everything here. So we have a selective measure and so all these options here. Let's say I created another, I'm going to make this a slicer as a drop down slicer here. Now this option has moved. Yes.
Sorry, I was answering call. Yes, basically you have not even 30. You have 37 minutes.
Okay.
The rest, and we have time buffer before the next workshop. So feel free. You have guaranteed 40 minutes, or even 45 if you need.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Perfect. So let's say I have this slicer, and just wanted it to change it to slicer setting to single select. I just going to show you a quick demo here when I talked about pitfalls and all this stuff. So let's say this is the use case, and we are showing everything here. This looks great, and number of orders we can select. We can do all the stuff what we wanted. So everything is working perfectly fine. But let's say I created another measure here. I called it a selected. I think I already have probably. Just going to actually not. So let's create another measure. Let's say the purpose of that measure is to show what year a user has selected. Even this is on the screen, but this is just for the purpose of the demo here to avoid the pitfalls here. So let's say I'm going to create a measure here. Call it selected year title. And I'd say, okay, you have selected value from calendar. For example, that's what my measure is. And let's put that measure in, what did I call it now? Title, select a year title. So we just created this measure right now. put it in the card visual. Okay, let's make it smaller. Category label off, call out value, let's make it 20. Okay, perfect. So this is working. So let's say this is what I am showing on my report, or I am setting this as a title for, let's set this as a title for our metrics visual as well. It's called selected year title. Okay, perfect. So you have selected year 2019. So showing up in here, I select 2020 and everything is beautiful and looks amazing. And now all of a sudden, a user has decided to select a measure and they go quantity and boom. And our measure is all of a sudden start showing this number. Like, first of all, where this number is coming from, what is this? And if I select sales, I'm getting all these numbers now. All of a sudden, number of orders, like all these weird stuff start showing up. Does not matter what year I select. So why this is happening? What's going on here? First of all, what is this number? Where it is coming from? So if you look at that, this number is what is on the total. So basically, whatever the measure we have selected, it is giving us the total of that measure. And if I'm selecting sales, the total is 5988547 for 2020, and that's what I'm getting here. This is giving 6 million, rounding off. So now, what is going on in here is whatever the measure is being selected, our measure, the new measure which we created called selected year title, is also showing that measure. And why that is happening? And to understand that, let's go to calculation group. And if we go here in our calculation group and measure selection V3, what we said it is when I have a number of orders used anywhere, return me order count, right? So when we are, let's say in this particular case, I'm selecting quantity, and let's go to the quantity. So it's saying is when the quantity is selected, return the quantity measure. So it ignores whatever the measure you're using, it does not care, because we told the calculation item, hey, when I'm using quantity, I want it to return the quantity measure for that. When I'm using the sales, return the sales measure for me. So it does not care what measure you are using. It says, okay, when the quantity is selected, I'm going to return the sum of quantity, and that's what is happening. And that's why this thing is going on. Now the challenge, we can overcome this very easily. This is where you really have to be careful when you're using calculation groups. You really need to make sure how it would work with other measures and all that stuff. So one thing, this is where the another functions come in the picture. Let's say there is a function called selected measure name. So we can put a selected measure name. What does this function return is return the name of the measure which is being used. We can say if the selected measure name is selected year title, then just return the selected measure. Don't return the sales in that case, otherwise return the sales. So basically what I'm doing is I'm adding an exception here. Here, when I'm using this measure called selected year title, then just return whatever that measure is supposed to do, otherwise return the sales. And let's apply this change and go back. And you will see when we have selected the sales, now that particular measure, whatever our original measure is now showing, you have selected year 2020. But if I go to quantity, it's still not working because we only applied this logic in the sales calculation item, not in the quantity. So what we need to do is basically we need to cut and paste this logic and bring it in each of the calculation item. And then in this case, we are returning sales, not quantity. And then close this, now apply the changes, and then go back. And now if the quantity is selected, so this is working. So we added the a exception there. Hey, when this measure is used, don't return the sales or quantity, only return whatever that measure is supposed to do. Otherwise, return the sales and quantity. So this is working. This is one of the things you really have to plan and be careful when you're working that. Sometimes people get caught into all this, why this is happening. Now, second challenge with this particular approach, what I showed you guys is, now, for example, we called our measure selected year title. And tomorrow, I think I did not like this name. I might say, okay, you know what, I wanted to call it title. Let's say I want to, changing my mayors, the names, all the title mayors are named differently. So I put the prefix title and then put the selected year. Now, if I apply this change, I rename the mayor here. And now I ran into the same issue because our logic, if we go back, we said, okay, if the selected mayor name is selected year title, because this is a text comparison, and we renamed our mayor, now this condition is not true anymore. This is false, so it starts returning a quantity. So you really have to be careful how you exclude your mayors. I just want to point out one thing here. I have on my YouTube channel, like calculation group is one of my favorite topics when it comes to Power BI. On my YouTube channel, I have around, if I'm not wrong, around 10 to 15 videos purely on calculation groups. And all those videos are mainly focused on having these kind of corner cases where you have some challenges, how you deal with it. And do check out those videos if you really wanted to use the calculation groups. I would highly recommend to check those out. Follow those videos, follow the best practices, what I've mentioned, because it's very hard to cover everything in here. If I put like 15 video of 20 minutes each, it means already there's 3 hours of a content there. So that I cannot fit everything here, but I'm giving the very basics of everything what you guys should be taking care of. So please check out those videos. There's another function here is called the selected mayor name. Again, this is a string comparison. There is something called is selected mayor. So what this does is you have to give the mayor name in here. So I can give a title and my new mayor name is selected here. So it does the same thing. So what we're doing is we said, okay, if the selected mayor is title selected here, then just return the selected mayor, otherwise return the quantity. We are not now doing that string comparison. So if I apply this change and go back, if I select the quantity, everything will work fine because we just changed the logic in the quantity. And if I come back and change this, my mayor name to instead of title selected year, I call it title year selected. I rename this thing. My logic would still work because what happens in this particular case, it's not a string comparison. As you can see, it's immediately changed the name of the mayor here as well. So one of the best practices when you're trying to compare this kind of exceptions, try to use the is selected mayor instead of the selected mayor name, because if tomorrow you rename your mayors, you have to come here and add that exception again and make sure that you are making changes here as well. But if I'm using is selected mayor, if I rename the mayor here, it will automatically change in the calculation wherever it is being used, and it will take care of itself by itself. The other approach, what you can do to exclude the mayors is, let's say you make a naming convention. You say, you know what, now, in this particular case, what we need to do is we need to, let's say right now we have a mayor called title year selected. Tomorrow we might have another mayor called title customer name, title month name. Could be anything, right? Label or anything. Now, it means we have to come back here again and again and make sure that we are adding those mayor to the exclusion here. One other approach we can do is, if we have a standard naming convention, we can do something like this. If contains selected mayor name title, then return whatever that mayor is, otherwise return the quantity. So basically what I'm saying is, if my mayor name has a word title, then do not return the quantity, return whatever that mayor is supposed to do. So this logic will take you to the next level. So basically what happens now, I think I have an error in my code here. If selected mayor name, what is the syntax for? Oh, I think I used the wrong. It is called contains string. I think that's the function. Yeah. Sorry, I used a different mayor. Yeah. So now I said, okay, if my Meyer contains the title anywhere, you just exclude it to return the quantity. So now if I have my Meyer name is called title here selected, does not matter where the title is. As far as the title keyword is in there, I say here title selected, does not matter. In case of quantity, it will always work because we have, let's say I add another Meyer now tomorrow, or whatever I wanted to just demo here. Let's see if I say I added demo Meyer. I call it, this is a demo Meyer, for example, and I show it in the card visual. Demo Meyer. Again, same thing. Let's copy this, and I put the demo Meyer here. Now, again, this demo Meyer has an issue because this is not excluded. But if I go here and say this is a demo Meyer dash title, sorry, wrong spelling. This will work perfectly fine because as soon as we added the title keyword in it, I don't need to worry about go back to my calculation items because I already gave the logic. If my Meyer name contains the word title, then do not go to the if true condition, otherwise go to the else condition. Only return quantity when the Meyer name does not contain the title. So there are a few things what you can do to handle the exception. And this is really, really important when you're working with calculation groups because you can really get into these kind of challenges. And do check out my playlist. I again highly recommend check out my playlist on calculation groups. All right. We still have, I guess, 25 minutes. I've still a lot more to cover. But before we move forward, let's talk about any question you guys have. Please let me know. I'm just going to share the link of my YouTube channel here in case you missed it. Any question or any comment or anything else or anything I can clarify? We're good? Perfect. Okay. Let's get going then. Where else we can work with calculus? So we just saw today like how powerful it is right now. We can make the things really, really dynamic. One of the things which I really want to show the power of calculation group is actually I might show another Power BI file here. Let's go back to PowerPoint quickly, which since we have seen that. So let's look into when to use calculation groups. Because we have done that demo. Reusable calculation, as you can see, we month to date, quarter to date, year to date, we apply on the different Meyers. So it means we can reuse our calculation. So that is where when anything you're performing again and again on multiple Meyers, immediately that is an opportunity to for the calculation groups. Changing relationship, as you guys see, we gave the opportunity, you want to see the data by ship date or by due date or by order date. We actually change the relationship between the active relationship, inactive to the active ones. Dynamic format strings, that's what I'm going to talk about right now. We also look at how we can select and switch Meyers. We gave the power to the user. You can want to see quantity, you want to see the sales, you wanted to see number of orders. Again, I want to point that out. That can be also achieved now with the field parameters, which was not possible because field parameter is just a newly introduced feature. But you can also achieve this with the calculation groups. Now, what is a dynamic format string? That makes it very, very powerful if you never use it. So what we can, let's go back to Power BI quickly. I'm going to open another report here. It's called, it's this one. I was working on this, as I mentioned, I'm giving another presentation on which is more field parameters and calculation groups together. And that I was just to prepare this one tiny little demo, which I really wanted to do here. Okay, let's see. I guess this is not the file. This is the one. Give me a quick second here. Okay. Maybe. Okay. All right. Okay, we will quickly create it on the dynamic format string. Let's see. Go back to our file which we're working. What is dynamic format string? Let's quickly create a quick table here. We call it country, and then we call it the sales amount and currency symbol for the country, and then there's an amount sales. Let's say I want to have a country: Canada, USA, Germany, maybe UK. Let's say these guys have a dollars as their currency symbol, and this one has a sterling pound. I don't know how to get that here, but I'm going to mark that as a P for now. And then the UK is this is euro and this is a pound, for example. That's my currency symbol. And I say this as a sales of 1,000, 2,000, 100, 300, whatever. And sales by country. Let's say that's my. Again, this is just a quick demo I'm putting together to show the dynamic format string. Let's add another page here. Our table we just added is called sales by country. So let's say we have 3 columns here: country, currency symbol, and the sales. Let's add a measure. Always work with the measures. Never use explicit measures. Never create implicit measures. Never use implicit measures. So I'm going to create a country sales. So this is my measure, and I put it in here. So let's change the size of this thing. Make it 16. So now let's say the requirement is to show this value in the native currency of the country, right? The $1,000 should show the dollar sign next to it. 100 should show the euro sign. 300 should show the sterling pound, and 200 show the dollar sign. Now we have a way to do that. In here is what I can do is I can decide the format of this. I can decide currency, and I can choose as a English United States. But the challenge with this is it is not showing up. Okay. Remove country, sales by country, matrix video. Okay, here you go. Here. And go 20. So if I change the currency symbol, and let's add the currency as well, the problem with this is it is showing the dollar sign or whatever the format I selected for that particular measure. But I don't want Germany to be seen as a dollar sign as well, and the UK as well. I want to show the euro symbol and the sterling pound symbol next to the currency. So how you can do that? This is the only thing you can. This is only possible with the calculation group. So what we have to do is let's go to the calculation groups, and let's. I'm going to create a new calculation group here called apply currency. That's the name of the calculation group, and I will change the name as well to apply currency, and I will add one calculation item here called yes. Sorry, it should be. And I will show you what is. So basically, apply currency is a is a calculation group, and that's the name of the table, and apply currency is also name of the column, and then it has one option called yes. What we need to do is we have nothing to do on what the calculation we want to perform. It's just a selected measure. But what we wanted to do is there is an option to add the format string expression. You can really go crazy in the format string. So you can write a very complex. There's a tons of videos on how you can be very creative to create the different format string, which is otherwise not possible in any ways in Power BI. This is the only way where you have a dynamic format string. So what I can do is I can create a measure here. I can say selected currency. So which is the selected value of my sales by country table. That's a new table we added, and the currency column we want is called currency. So I'm storing this is in a variable. Make it smaller. So I'm saying whatever the currency country we're looking at, get the currency symbol of that particular country, and then concatenate it with selected currency, that symbol with my actual how I want to show the decimal places and a number. I don't want to show the decimal number anything. So once I do this, now apply the calculation, add this calculation group into our model. So save it. If everything is fine, there's no error, perfect. And when you add a new calculation group, it asks you to refresh. So I'm going to refresh now. So apply currency, as you can see, this is not showing up in here. And it should have only one option, apply currency, and has only one option called yes. So if I bring this it here and nothing happened at this point in time, because I'm not doing anything fancy here. So right now everything is in a dollar sign. But as soon as I select apply currency yes, you can see now that Canada is in the dollar sign, and Germany has its euro symbol, UK has its pounds symbol, and USA has its a dollar symbol. So basically, whatever the currency is for the country, if I remove the currency column from here, just for so that we don't have a lot of. So as you can see, if I don't apply my currency, calculation group, I'm getting everything is default format, but I gave to my sales by country measure. But as soon as I go apply currency, it gives me the actually number in the native of that currency. I can control. This is just a simple example. You can really control the dynamic formatting of your measures. So I don't need to put this in on a slicer here. I'm just showing you as a demo. I can remove it from here, and I can have apply currency on this particular page. I can say yes and hide it from my user, and perfect. That's it, right? So anytime he uses if I wanted to give the both option yes and no, hey, you want to see the native currency or the global currency, we can go all crazy logic here. But you can, as you can see, with calculation group, you can really control the dynamic formatting of your measures as well. Prior to calculation group, and I can show this, see this on a visual as well. Before this, and if I put the data label here, turn the data label on, and I'm not sure you can see it. You can see the data labels are also showing in the currency of the country. Not everything is showing in the dollar. So prior to calculation group, if you have to achieve this, you will convert your measures into the string. And once you convert your measures into the string, it means you cannot see those in the line chart or the bar chart, only in the matrix and the table visual. Now, this dynamic format is getting applied in every visual wherever we use it. It's still under the hood, it's a number, and just we are showing the different formatting for that. Formatting, and you can be very, very creative with whatever you want to achieve it. But I just want to give you this one simple demo here. Any question on dynamic formatting? We good? All right. Okay, my thing is up here now. Yes, Anna, I just did that, but I will do it again. Okay, and that's a couple of more things I wanted to show, and then we will have the open discussion. Anything you want to know? So one of the things which I really like you can be very, very creative with the calculation groups. So let's say this is again already had a page created. I have this page. What I wanted to do is I want to create a tooltip. So when I hover over on any column here, I wanted to show the trend line of that particular column over period. So for example, if I'm going here, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a tooltip giving me sales by year. So this is let's say it's a Canada sale 2.2 million, but over here how it trended. So I wanted to create a tooltip like this. But this tooltip is not very, very good. As you can see, if I hover over, it is giving me the sales, also the order quantity, also the order count, and also the quantity. Order count and the quantity is so small compared to the sales value, because sales value is in millions and this is in the thousands. And the order quantity in the order count and the quantity is flat line, and doesn't make any sense. How nice it would be if I'm hovering over the sales value, then give me the trend of the sales. If I'm hovering over the order count, it should give me the trend of the order count. And if I'm on the quantity, it should give me the trend of quantity. But right now, if you're not using the calculation groups. So again, the tooltip page, what I created here is very simple. As you can see, it's just have the three measures in there and the year on the x-axis, and that's what it is currently being used. But now, move forward, we start using calculation group. So this is another page which I did. Now what I have here is, let's say, actually, we should have the country on the x-axis as well. So now here I have I'm using calculation group. As you can see, I had a different calculation group in the past called metric, and I'm using a measures the same thing, number of orders, quantity, and sales. And what I'm doing here is, if I am hovering over a calculation group, now what it is a column, what it is giving me, it is giving me number of orders for that particular trend of that particular calculation item, not like everything what we were seeing in the past. When I'm on orders, then I'm seeing trend of orders. If I'm on the quantity, I'm seeing a trend of quantity. And if I'm on the sales, I'm seeing a trend of the sales. So this now makes it more user-friendly and more powerful than being what we saw in here. Does not matter. This is the default behavior of without calculation group, that it shows us all the three measures what we put it on the tooltip. But with the calculation groups, we were able to achieve that depending on which column, which cell we are looking at. We are just seeing the trend of that particular column instead of seeing the trend of everything. And this is only possible with calculation group. And now it does make more sense. Okay, this is a sales trend by country. This is the order quantity trend over period, and this is the number of order trend by period. So this becomes really, really actually on that particular page. I have the month at the x-axis. So if I put the year, it will make more sense because there are too many months. So let's go back to tip fix. So this is now showing the trend by year for sales. And this is the trend of quantity over a year for Canada. And this is a number of orders trend for Canada over a year. So this is now a very handy and very, very powerful at this point of time. So again, this is possible with calculation group. So basically, you can really go very creative. It's not only help us to create less number of measures and reusable calculation, but it also allows to create this kind of functionality in our reports, otherwise which is not possible. There are tons of other material which I really wanted to share with you guys, but I guess I want to keep last 5-10 minutes to talk about this. Again, one quick request I have a barcode at the bottom on my PowerPoint presentation, and if you guys can scan that and fill up a feedback form, that would be really, really helpful. That will really help me to understand where I need to improve and how I can provide the better content. Again, as I mentioned, I will share this slide with Alex, and I put some links in here for further learning on calculation group, because this is a very, very vast area, very big, and if it's not used properly, you can really get caught into certain challenges. And for sure, my playlist is only go when you started using calculation groups, because it's not like for beginners. It's a little bit, if you already know calculation groups, which I hopefully you guys know after this session, and then you can watch my videos, and it will help you to understand it further. Again, I really appreciate you being joining me today here. Please do fill up. I will keep this on screen, and I'm gonna, now it's an open discussion. Please let me know any question you guys have. Come off mic, and then please ask, and feel free to ask the questions.
Oh, Parv, thank you for your workshop. I confirm that it's a very useful technique, which saved for my team tens or even hundreds of hours when we work with complex projects. So it's very, very, very useful. 1 second.
Yeah, please this again. Please fill up this feedback form. There's only 1 or 2 questions. It's more about like how you like the presentation and any feedback. I don't need your email or anything. It's just for me to understand and learn about myself, how I'm doing. Thanks, Deepthi. Thank you. I appreciate you for joining. Thank you. Yeah, come off mute, and please feel free to ask. I still have, I think, 2-3 minutes, and yeah. Thanks, Robert. Really appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I
no worries.
Answer urgent call.
No problem.
Okay, so I think that we finished. We may launch our poll. Thank you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks. If you guys have no question, it's really, appreciate for joining me, and I hope you guys learned a few things out of today's session. But yeah, I wanted to vote myself 0. but you said you can't vote.
There is no zeros. I see these results, so everything's perfect. And as my personal recommendation, follow Parv's YouTube channel. There's a lot of useful content.
Yeah, please contact me afterwards as well. My contact, as I said, YouTube. Do subscribe that. I keep on posting videos. 150 videos I posted in 1 year. I was so motivated to share my knowledge. So right now I'm traveling, but you expect once I'm back home, I will be sharing a lot more stuff in there.